of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father,
Councilman Goins will give the invocation.
all right, thank you. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for each person here and family represented. God, we just ask that you help us as we try to lead our community forward. We thank you for this day and all that you do for us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Benell.
Present.
Gone. Honeycutt.
Here.
Kirkpatrick.
Yes, ma'am.
Lowry. Neal. Norris.
Here.
Trigg. Witcher.
You have before you the minutes of our last council meeting, which was Monday, August the 23rd. If you haven't had time to review them, if you have any deletions, additions, or corrections, please state that now. If not, I'll accept the motion to accept them, please.
Motion by Benell.
Benell makes a motion to accept the minutes. Have a second by Councilman Witcher. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Minutes are passed. Under the unfinished business, we have a second reading ordinance of 2021 an ordinance enacting and adopting supplement 2021 S50 to the Code of Ordinance of the City of Glasgow.
City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-blank, an ordinance enacting and adopting supplement 2021 S50 to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky. Whereas the American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati, Ohio, has completed the 2021 S50 supplement to the Code of Ordinances, Exhibit A, of the City of Glasgow, which supplement contains all ordinances of a general nature enacted since the prior supplement to the Code of Ordinances of this municipality. And whereas American Legal Publishing Corporation has recommended the revision or addition of certain sections of the Code of Ordinances which are based on or make references to sections of the Kentucky Revised Statutes, and whereas it is the intent of council to accept those updated sections in accordance with the changes of the law of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Now therefore be it ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, Section 1, that the 2021 S50 supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, as submitted by American Legal Publishing Corporation of Cincinnati and is attached hereto as Exhibit A, will be and the same is hereby adopted by reference as if set out in its entirety. Section 2, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its date of passage, approval, and publication as required by law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor. Attest, Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, August 23rd, 2021. Second reading, September 13th, 2021.
Having heard this reading of this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept? I have a motion by Councilman Kirkpatrick. Second by Councilman Neal. Being the second reading, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Honeycutt.
Yes.
Kirkpatrick. Lowry.
Yes.
Neal.
Yes.
Norris.
Yes.
Trigg.
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
Benell.
Yes.
Gone.
Second reading's been approved. It's passed. Next item under the new business is ordinance, first reading of 2021, an ordinance establishing the 2021 tax rate for the City of Glasgow.
City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-blank, an ordinance establishing the 2021 tax rate for the City of Glasgow. Be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, that there is hereby levied an ad valorem tax for the general fund of .174 per $100 of assessed value on real property and .176 per $100 of assessed value of personal property subject to taxation for municipal purposes and having taxable situs in the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as of the first day of January 2021, as listed in the tax assessment ledger as compiled by the Barron County Property Valuation Administrator. Section 2. All monies collected from this tax shall be paid into the general fund of the city to be used for payment of proper expenditures as determined by the council. Section 3. It is further provided that all taxpayers that may owe taxes under this levy shall come to the city tax collector on or before January 31st, 2022. Any taxpayer who pays his or her bill under this levy on or before November 30th, 2021, shall be allowed a discount of 2% of the total tax bill. Those paying on or before December 30th, 2021, shall be allowed a discount of 1% of the total tax bill. It is further provided that to the tax bill of all taxpayers who fail to pay same on or before January 31st, 2022, there shall be added by way of penalty an amount equal to 6% of the total tax bill, and upon the total tax bill plus penalty, there shall be charged interest at the rate of 6% per annum from February 1st, 2022, until paid, and such delinquent taxpayer shall also pay all costs and expenses incidental to any action taken by the city for the collection of such delinquent tax bills. Section 4, delinquent taxes shall be collectible under the provisions of the Kentucky Revised Statutes relating to the collection of delinquent taxes by the city of the third class. Section 5, if any part of this ordinance shall be declared invalid for any reason, it shall not affect the remainder of said ordinance. All ordinances in conflict here are hereby repealed to the extent they may conflict. Section 6, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its proper passage and publication as required by law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, September 13th, 2021.
Having heard the reading of this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Honeycutt,
Second by Norris.
second by Councilman Norris.
Can I ask a question just to the finance? What's the total amount of this increase?
What did you ask, Patrick?
How much the total increase was of the tax? That's off the side, that was it.
I have a couple of questions. When was the last time we raised property?
We'll have to look back and see when it was. I know we didn't for the last 3 years.
I believe it was the year that the hospital bought all the doctor's offices and the tax base dropped way down.
And it's funny that you would say that, because that's what I'm leaning in towards. As I believe one of our offices talked about a few years ago, we have more rental property in Glasgow than we do personal ownership. In other words, individual owners like ourselves, your individual home. So what that's leading towards is they say that once you go past 50%, it's not good for your community as a whole. And my concern is, like you were saying about the hospital, and I had the hospital and stormwater as two examples of when a large entity does, like buys all the doctors' homes and everything like that, and then when you do a reassessment, the next group who receive it, that's what Mr. Bird was alluding to, the owners, the current owners never pay a tax on some property, but the new owners will pay an increase due to the value going up. So, say for instance, a few years ago, we had stormwater. We add stormwater to every piece of property, personal property. All right. If 50% of the owners were regular folks, then they would pay I think it was $25 per home or something like that. But since most of the properties was rental, what we saw, which is probably the way you do business is the renter put it on the rentee that.
That's not correct.
Well, in
It's
a lot
not
of
correct.
cases, that happened. They raised their rent by $25 per month per thing. So my concern with this tax rate increase is we have more folks in rental properties, and the folks that's doing the renting will add that on to those persons' rents. So we can argue that $1 on 100,000 isn't a lot, but we have multiple apartment places where you have $1 million properties, and if each one of those owners decides, and we don't have a say on that, but each owner decides, all right, I'm I'm gonna pass this 1% on to each apartment. Because that's what happened with stormwater, whether we want to accept it or not, that's what happened. So if they pass it on like that, then the burden becomes on the folks who are renting, are the ones that are renting a place. So my issue with tax, the withholding tax and this tax is the group that's being truly taxed can't afford it.
If they're living in a $100,000 apartment, then their rent would go up $1 a year. I mean, to me, that would be a lavish apartment.
No, what I'm saying is, say you're living in an apartment, you're paying $500, but the apartment complex that you're living in costs $5 million. Right?
Well, that'd be spread over all the renters, not just one unit, but one individual unit.
I know, that's what
I don't understand.
Yeah, what I'm saying, Mr. Huckabee, is that some are scrupulous, there are no scruples, and greed comes in the way. So if you have a $5 million assessment on your property, then that would only be, what, how much? The 1%, $5 million, what, 5,000? And so if you decided to say, hey, I'm gonna raise the rent on each one of my apartments, and you say to those guys, I'm raising your rent because they raise property taxes, and he assesses each one of them actually the same amount. That's what happened with stormwater.
Joe,
Yes.
you're calling that 1%, but it's 1/100th of 1%. It's 1/100th of 1%. Okay? That's $1 on 100,000, not $1 on 100.
And that's the reason why, like I said, so on $5 million, that would be $50. So what keeps the apartment guys from saying, hey, my tax rate went up $50?
Joe, I appreciate your question, but you're going about it wrong. I owned 130-some rental properties when we had the stormwater, and I never assessed any renter a penny. And I don't think anybody else out here is going to look at something this minute. And the hospital was not a taxpayer. So when they bought those office buildings, our assessments went down because they didn't have to pay assessments on them. But since they've resold them, now they're back on the market, it is. But we're missing the point as far as our tax increase is looking at. But I appreciate your questions, and if that's not a straight enough answer, I can't answer for 150 people that own rental property, but I can answer for the bulk of the people who own multiple rental properties and tell you that they don't assess their tenants on an increase on their rent, on their assessment. Not that I know of any of them that do that, because it's tax deductible, first of all, and second of all, if I've got a $5 million complex, what am I going to do, raise the rent 50 cents a month on each one? It don't make sense. But your question is taken, and hopefully it's understood by everybody what you're asking.
So if we don't do it, we have a little shortfall of money if we don't raise it.
We don't raise it, plus we won't get help through the state if we want help.
And another item that we need to take in consideration is that when we talk about the ad valorem tax, we also got to look at all of our tax structure in the city. And one thing that we've not discussed tonight is that our tangible assessments are down. Our tangible assessments are down about $10 million. So this increase being the dollar on a $100,000 property just barely keeps us even with that drop that we've had in the tangible property.
And you could probably say the same, Councilman, about the withholding. With nobody working, then we obviously have a drop in revenue to the city. So,
Is there any other questions or discussion? We have a first and a second. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed signify with a like sign. We have 8 for it, 1 against it. Next item is the first reading of an ordinance amending rezoning, the city ordinance rezoning property located intersection of Lincoln Road and Myrtle Street. You have that in your packet.
City of Glasgow ordinance number 2021-blank, an ordinance amending Glasgow zoning ordinance, rezoning property located at the intersection of Lincoln Road and Myrtle Street, containing 1.096 total acres, more or less, from B2 General Business District to R4 Medium Density Multifamily Residential District. It appearing that, number one, the Housing Authority of Glasgow by Sherry D. Lee, Executive Operation Director, applicant, has requested a zoning change for the property located at the intersection of Lincoln Road and Myrtle Street, containing 1.096 acres, more or less. A schematic drawing of said property subject to rezoning is attached here too as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Number two, a trial-type due process hearing concerning said proposed zoning change was held on June 21st, 2021 at 7 p.m. by the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, resulting in the recommendation by the Commission that the property hereinafter described be rezoned from B2 General Business District to R4 Medium Density Multifamily Residential District classification. Number three, copies of the findings and recommendations of the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission have been forwarded to the Glasgow City Council, which are hereby adopted by the Glasgow City Council and are attached to this ordinance as Exhibit B and incorporated herein by reference. Now therefore be it hereby ordained by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Section number one. The findings and recommendations of the Joint City-County Planning and Zoning Commission, copies of which are attached hereto as Exhibit B, are hereby approved in all respects. Section 2. The property located at the intersection of Lincoln Road and Myrtle Street, containing 1.096 acres, more or less, be rezoned from B2 General Business District to R4 Medium Density Multifamily Residential District classification. The real property covered by this ordinance being more particularly described in Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. Section 3. All future development of this property shall comply with the requirements of the Development Plan Ordinance adopted by the Glasgow City Council on December 30th, 1991. Section 4. The Mayor of Glasgow is hereby empowered and directed to complete any documents on behalf of the City of Glasgow, Kentucky necessary to implement this action. Section 5. This ordinance takes effect upon its passage and publication according to law. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk. First reading, September 13th, 2021.
Having heard this ordinance, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion by Benel.
Second by Lowry.
Motion by Councilman Bonnell and a second by Councilman Lowry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Ordinance first reading passes. Next item of business is a resolution authorizing the City of Glasgow, Kentucky to dispose of certain shotguns pursuant to law that the Glasgow Police Department has designated as surplus.
The City of Glasgow Resolution number 2021-blank, a resolution authorizing the City of Glasgow, Kentucky to dispose of certain shotguns pursuant to law that the Glasgow Police Department has designated as surplus items. Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows, that the Glasgow Police Department has 22 shotguns that have been retired from active duty as they are no longer authorized for service. These 22 shotguns are declared surplus, some of which can be altered and continued in service as a less lethal weapon. The shotgun shows significant wear and damage. Number 2, the Chief of Police shall decide which and how many of said shotguns shall be repurposed and remain in service. The Chief of Police may, in her discretion, sell the remaining surplus shotguns to police officers at a price she determines for their private use only, getting written assurance from any officer buying a shotgun that he or she cannot use it on official duty with the Glasgow Police Department. Number 3, all funds received shall be returned to the general fund. Be it further resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that Jennifer Arbogast, Police Chief of the Glasgow Police Department, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to make any and all decisions necessary to complete the disposal of those shotguns pursuant to law. So adopted this 13th day of December 2021. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to accept?
Motion Norris.
Motion, Councilman Norris, Second, Councilman Neal. Second, all those in
Can I
favor?
ask a question real quick, Kim? The money that this goes, does it go back? I may have asked this question before, but does it go back to the police department or just,
It'll be put back in their budget, but it goes back to the general fund.
but it actually goes into their budget? Or just into the general fund?
It goes into the general fund for rebudgeting next year.
Okay.
I got a question on the chief. Are you replacing the shotguns, new shotguns, or they're taking the shotguns out of service, or what's your point?
Shotguns are coming out of service.
State law.
Less legal. DOCJT no longer teaches shotguns. So our academy no longer teaches it, they teach rifles, and that's what we carry now.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion passes. The next item is Resolution 2021-resolution authorizing the City of Glasgow, Kentucky to dispose of the emergency response trench trailer and contents pursuant to law, which the Glasgow Fire Department has designated as a surplus item.
City of Glasgow Resolution Number 2021-blank, a resolution authorizing the City of Glasgow, Kentucky to dispose of the emergency response trench trailer and contents pursuant to law, which the Glasgow Police Department has designated as surplus items. Be it hereby resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky as follows. Number one, that the Glasgow Fire Department has a specialized trailer designated for emergency response to emergency trench situations that includes equipment specifically for that purpose. Number two, the trailer and items therein shall be disposed of pursuant to law. Be it further resolved by the City of Glasgow, Kentucky, that Harold Armstrong, Mayor of the City of Glasgow, shall be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the disposal of the above items pursuant to law, so adopted this 13th day of September 2021. Harold Armstrong, Mayor, attest Mona Simmons, City Clerk.
Having heard this resolution, do I have a motion to accept it?
Motion by Benel.
Second by Lowry.
Did you get that? Benel and Lowry. All those approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. It has been approved. For direction from the City Council to improve efficiency and reduce cost of publication, all changes to the Glasgow Fire Department Standard Operating Guidelines or the Glasgow Police Department Standard Operation Procedures were to be adopted by executive order, but to notify the council of any changes, there were two executive orders signed this week, Executive Order Number 2021-219 and 2021-220. Copies of just the executive orders are in your packet. Save paper, this has been ordered, are available in full with attachments on the Glasgow website under City Government. Next item, we have a few items that we need to go into closed session for, and that's under KRS, what are those, City Attorney, KRS, to go into closed session?
I don't remember the KRS, but one is to discuss litigation and one is to discuss a bond issue on economic development. We've got two possible to discuss on litigation.
What the KRS is.
Excuse me.
We're going to go into, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion.
Have a motion by Witcher, second.
Well, then let's see if we can find it.
Find it. Yeah, you have to. Closed session. I think it's KRS 60.5. Look at that. What?
61.080.
We'll just look it up to make sure.
Look it up to make sure.
We don't have it in here, but we'll correct it.
$61.810.
61.810, KRS 61.810. Pardon us for the deletion of that, but that is what the KRS is, and we have a motion and a second. Second. We will go into closed session. and Maureen Carpenter's going to join us in there for this first closed session, and then she will exit, and the other two will be given.
We need to vote. We had the motion, but we didn't vote.
Got to vote on going into closed
Okay,
session.
Sorry. All those in favor of going into closed session, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. We will go to closed session.
Sorry. I'll second your motion. I'll second your motion.
I'm getting paid by the hour, it's okay. I just gotta be happy to Subway.
Oh, I'm freezing. Let's go, Danny. Let's go. Let's go, Gary.
Well, we have to come back to the session.
Have a motion to come back into open session.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman second by Councilman Neal. All those in favor of coming into closed session, signify by saying aye. Closed session. All those opposed to coming back into open session, like sign. We are now back in open session. In closed session, item number one, possible litigation. We had two items that we looked at, no action was taken on either one. Item number two, possible building revenue bonds presented by Maureen Carpenter, Director of Economic Development. I have a motion to,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the industrial bonds for CATL.
Councilman Lowry, second, Councilperson Kirkpatrick. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, like sign. We will proceed with Maureen Carpenter on doing those bonds. Is there any other, we have no other business on here, but
Mayor, I got one question. Last week I asked if we could have something on EPB. It was in advance and.
superintendent was his first day today, I found out Friday. So I don't know whether to spring that on him right now since he just now started. How about we see if he'll come and give us a report on our next meeting? I mean, he could come tonight, but I didn't know he started until today, not until Friday. But today was his first day, if I'm not
So
mistaken.
you really want to know from the superintendent, or you just want to know where we are? With the pay and the contract and all that? The board member could do that.
Right. Yeah, anybody could.
What do you want to know?
Well, there was this question, what was the status of everything? So we have a new replacement superintendent. We've got a new bill thing in process. At least 2 months ago, we talked about the increase in rate or the change in rate where small businesses and large companies kept theirs the same. We as residentials paid an increase. I have one bill here that shows what I was afraid of, which was an increase, and there were other complaints within the community about the increase in utility rates, mainly electric, over the last 2 or 3 months. So what I was hoping was that either our board member or the acting intern superintendent that came to this meeting and said to us, hey, this is where we are. Have we had any complaints where we are with the people?
Will you get that with the interim board member? Will you get it with the interim board member and have her give you the last 60 days, what's changed, what's went up, what stayed the same, and then present it to everybody?
Interim superintendent, Mayor.
Joe?
I asked this board member to go back to the interim superintendent and then get that information and report to everybody here.
Joe, it may not be helpful, but at the last board meeting, she presented to the EPB board the statistics for, I think, the month of June and July about how much residential bills had increased and small commercial, and she did the breakdown of how many customers had seen an increase in their bill and how many had seen a decrease. So that information does exist.
Yeah, thank you.
I just don't remember the specifics of everything.
It's probably on their website.
I want to say it's 60-some% increase of residential year over year with less kilowatt is what I remember. I don't remember if I read that or saw that, but
We're trying to get an update from factual numbers.
so you would want Melanie to come at the next thing to answer questions, or her and Marlon can answer the questions
I
together.
think you just need a report, don't you?
Well, it might spur other questions, is what I'm thinking.
Is there any other?
Well, just on third, Melanie will come, or we'll ask her to. Is that what we decided just now?
That's what we can say.
Okay, all right, I wasn't sure. Thank you.
I'll have our board member to talk to her, see if she'd be willing to come and give us that past information. And if she says she don't want to do that, then we'll get the report ourselves and distribute it between everybody. I know at least you can get that report from the last meeting.
Yes, the other questions that come up.
Under the announcements, September 22nd, 2021 at 9 a.m. the Glasgow Fire Department invites you to a presentation to Lowe's for their help on the new cabinets at the fire department. Lowe's gave them a special deal and they installed them themselves, so they're going to do a little presentation down on the 22nd at 9 a.m. They're all invited to do that. Monday, September the 27th, 7 p.m. is our next council meeting here at the City Council Chambers. And also, anybody out there, or anybody around this table, we'll give you the exact date and the time, but the members of the Fort Williams Restoration